of the fraternities and the sororities, and the presidents of the Black Student Union, and the Latino Student Club, and the president of college Democrats, college Republicans. We're meeting them today, we're developing relationships with them today, and we're mobilizing them today. And that's how we're going to keep this country not only pro-Israel today, but for decades to come. If you look at up here, leads me to my final story. An introduction of somebody very special here at Losner. It's not easy being a pro-Israel community activist. But it's even harder to be a pro-Israel activist on campus. There's a lot of things to think about. Not only do you have academics, there's a lot of distractions. There's sports, there's fraternities and sororities, there are parties, there's jobs and clubs and parties, there's study abroad, there's parties. A lot of things to do on campus, right? But there's also this feeling of anti-Israel sentiment that pervades campuses around the country. They bring in special speakers and professors who often speak from the lecterns and spout the anti-Israel venom. It's very hard to be a pro-Israel student activist. So many of them just don't. There's other things they can be doing. And so for years, the University of Oregon had a very small contingent of pro-Israel activists. Very small. It wasn't their fault. It was very hard to do. In fact, last year, the University of Oregon only had 2 students that went to the APAC conference. Josh Losner and Caleb Zipperstein. But they went and they got inspired. They got motivated. They got turned on. They said, we're going to do something about this. And they brought together their friends and their friends of friends, and they started to build a cadre at the University of Oregon. And they brought in the student body president, the student body vice president, student senators, and they got bigger and stronger. They got APAC's attention. And they became one of only 60 campuses around the country to be an APAC student showcase campus. And so this time, this year at the APAC Policy Conference, they went from 2 students to 17 students. When other students around the country took notice, and they voted on what campus should get the Activist of the Year award, guess who got it? University of Oregon. To introduce to you the Executive Director of Ducks for Israel, APAC National Council member, Josh Losner.
Thank you, Zach, for that wonderful introduction. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Josh Losner, and as Zach mentioned, I'm the Executive Director of Ducks for Israel and the APAC Liaison at the University of Oregon. I'm proud to be a small part of the fastest growing group of pro-Israel activists in the country, and so I'd like to start by asking the 40 or so University of Oregon students in the room tonight to stand up so that we can all recognize the strength of the U.S.-Israel relationship. When I came to campus last year, the pro-Israel movement consisted of 3 students that were a part of the Oregon Hill. I'd like to recognize my great friend, Kadaf Hornstein, whose father and mother are in the audience tonight. Who provided me and the entire Ducks for Israel movement with a vision. And without this vision, we wouldn't have been able to do what we've done. I came to Eugene from a small private Jewish day school in San Diego. I listened to heartwarming stories about Israel every single day. I saw and I felt pro-Israel images 24/7. My entire world was Jewish, and my entire world was pro-Israel. But as I soon came to realize, my world wasn't the real world. And although the campus was certainly not anti-Israel, the perception in a relatively laid-back political environment was that Israel was a conservative political entity and a generally negative force in the region. Israel was viewed almost exclusively in Eugene through the prism of the conflict and as an aggressor in its dispute with its neighbors and the Palestinians. Ladies and gentlemen, 1.5 years later, the University of Oregon pro-Israel movement now has a following of over 70 students. Ducks for Israel's philosophy has been to promote the beautiful Israel, which celebrates the country's democracy and her commitment to equal rights for all. We highlight its remarkable achievements in the fields of the arts, technology, life sciences, and renewable energy. And by leveraging AIPAC's expertise, leadership, and guidance, together with the support of local leaders, we've been able to translate the more positive way in which Israel is now viewed in our university. 1.5 years later, we've developed pro-Israel leadership statements, written pro-Israel opinion editorials, and have begun to change the perception of Israel at the University of Oregon and the way her issues are positioned and considered politically. 1.5 years later, ladies and gentlemen, we've become one of America's most pro-Israel universities and have been recognized as AIPAC's strongest campus on the West Coast. In the 2 previous school years, the University of Oregon sent a combined 3 students to the AIPAC Policy Conference. This year, the Washington, D.C. Convention Center resounded to the sound of the quack as 17 students from Eugene decided to forego the opportunity to attend class. Join many of you for AIPAC's most important policy conference in history. And I'd like to mention, we wouldn't be where we are today without the help of AIPAC. Without AIPAC and without your dollars, we wouldn't be here today. We on campus are playing our part, and tonight I want to ask you to continue to play yours. From the bottom of my heart, I want to ask all of you to be as generous as you possibly can, so that together we can ensure that AIPAC continues its great work. With your generosity, we will ensure the security of the state of Israel remains strong, and that the bonds of our 2 countries remain unbreakable. Thank you very much.